We continue now at the top of Daf Mem Daled Amid Beis Meseches Menachos. This is Menachos Daf 44b. This Daf is sponsored by Shalom ben Noim in memory of Moshe Leo ben David. Thank you for your sponsorship. If you would like to sponsor an Amid or a Daf, see the description box below and see the description box below to see how you can support this channel. And the previous Amid, Reish Lakish said that anyone who's Meniach Tefillin, anyone who wears Tefillin, Marech Yomim, he'll have long life. And the Gemara now brings a pasuk for that. The pasuk says in Yeshayahu, Hashem aleim yichyu, Hashem upon them they will live, ulechol bohen, and all within them, Chaye Ruchi, the life of my spirit, v'sachli meini, v'hachayeni, and help me recover and allow me to live. And Rashi explains, Hashem aleim osam shenosin aleim shem Hashem. The pasuk is being interpreted to mean those who carry upon them the name of Hashem, meaning b'tfilin, meaning with tefillin, yichyu, they will live. And so therefore, that's a concept of arichas yomim when it comes to tefillin. And the Gemara continues with the Mishnah, Hasolas v'hashemen ein ma'akvin esayayin, the solas and the shemen, which is the flour and the oil, talking about karba mincha. That doesn't prevent the fulfillment of the mitzvah with the wine. That's talking about the nisach hayayin, the wine libation, v'lo hayayin ma'akvon, and the wine doesn't prevent them. Hamatanos shal hamizbeach hachitzon, the applications of blood on the outer mizbeach, ein ma'akvo zuesu, they don't prevent the fulfillment one to the other. And Rashi explains, Hasolas v'hashemen shel minchas nesachim, this is talking about the solas and the shemen of minchas nesachim, that's the karba mincha that accompanies animal karbonos. So there's a karba mincha, there's nesachim, libations. So ein ma'akvin es hayayin, the flour and the oil, they don't hold back the mitzvah of the wine, meaning shem hevi yayin below solas v'shemen. Let's say he brings wine without the solas, without the shemen, without the flour and the oil, minaschon, he can still pour that wine as a libation. And hamatanos, the applications of the blood, kagon dalin matanos shel chatas, for example, the 4 applications that are done by karban chatas, ein ma'akvos zuesu, they don't hold back one another, meaning shem lo nasan ela achas, meaning if you only did one of the applications, keeper, that is still an atonement. And the Gemara says, Tanu Rabbanan, the sages taught in a brayso, minchasam v'niskeim. It says in the pasuk, minchasam v'niskeim. Again, this is the mincha and the nesachim that accompany the various animal karbonos. Have mincha means bring the mincha, v'yachar kach have nesachim, and then bring the nesachim. The mincha comes first, and then the nesachim, according to the Tanakama. And the brayso continues, Rebbe Omer, Rebbe says there's a different pasuk. It says zevach u'nesachim, it says zevach u'nesachim, and so therefore it means have zevach, first bring the animal carbon, v'yachar kach have nesachim, and then bring the nesachim. Essentially, the nesachim come before the mincha, according to Rebbe. Rashi explains, have mincha, the minchas nesachim krevim tchila. Again, the mincha comes first. V'yachar kach nesachim. Rebbe says, bring the zevach and then the nesachim. Achar ho'ivarim miyad, v'yachar nesachim ha-mincha. Again, right after the limbs of the animal are brought on the mizbeach, then bring the nesachim, and then after the nesachim, bring the karba mincha. That's what Rebbe says. And the Gemara says, v'Rebbe nami. Now Rebbe also, haksivu minchasam v'niskeim. Doesn't it say minchasam v'niskeim? What does Rebbe do with that pasuk? And the Gemara says, ahumi boy, that is needed for the following. Leminchasam v'niskeim belayla, means to say that the mincha and the nesachim can be brought even at night. Uminchasam v'niskeim afilu l'machar. And also, the mincha and the nesachim, they can even be brought the next day. That's the day after the animal carbon was brought. And Rashi explains, minchasam v'niskeim belayla, their mincha and their nesachim at night. The minchas nesachim kraven belayla. Again, it means minchas nesachim can be brought at night. Rashi says, v'ikash, and after you're going to ask the following question, we said earlier in Hakometz Rabbah, Devarim Shadarkan Likarev Bayom, we brought things which are brought during the day. V'kachashav Minchas Nesachim, and one of the things is Minchas Nesachim, and here it says Minchas Nesachim is at night, or could be at night. And Rashi continues, Mefarish la beperak yesh karbanos b'Meseches Tamura. This is explained in Perak yesh karbanos and Meseches Tamura. Dehad dekatani biyom, when it says it has to be in the day, that's b'nesachim haboim im hazevach. That's the nesachim that came together, were prepared together with the animal carbon. V'had dekatani b'layla, when it says at night, b'nesachim haboim b'fnei atzman. That's talking about nesachim that come on their own. Kagon shehevi zevach below nesachim. For example, he brought an animal carbon without nesachim. Well, liachar zman hevi hanesachim b'fnei atzman, and then after some time, he brought the nesachim on their own, yachol lahavian balayla. Then he could bring those at night. And then it said, va'afilu lamachar, it could even be the next day. Im hevi hayom, if he brought today, yachol lahakriv nesachav lamachar, he could bring the libations the next day. Uvilvad shalo yiktashu bechli me'asmol. But Rashi says it has to be, that can only be if he didn't sanctify the nesachim in a vessel from yesterday. If he sanctified it already, so then he can't bring it tomorrow, the next day. The kadshi, because once they were sanctified, and if Sol and Belina, then they become disqualified if they are left overnight. Kidetanya b'Meseches Meila, as we learned in a Brayso Meseches Meila, Kidsho b'chli, once they're sanctified in a vessel, Huchshru li'pasel b'tvul yom u'v'mechusar kipurim u'v'lina. It says now they're already rendered fit in order to be disqualified by tvul yom or by mechusar kipurim or by lina, again being left overnight. And the Gemara continues, v'rabbanan nami. Now the Rabbanan also haksiv zevach u'nesachim. Isn't it written in the pasuk zevach u'nesachim? What do the Rabbanan do with that pasuk? Again, Rebbe uses that pasuk to say havei zevach v'yachar kach havei nesachim. What do the Rabbanan do with that pasuk? And the Gemara answers, ahumi boile. That pasuk is needed l'chid zeiri, for the teaching of zeiri. Diamar zeiri, because zeiri said ein nesachim miskadshin elo b'shchitas hazevach. That nesachim, they don't become sanctified, or they only become sanctified through the slaughtering of the carbon, through the slaughtering of the animal. Rashi explains, ein ha-nesachim haboin im hazevach, meaning if you have nesachim coming with an animal carbon, that's when they become sanctified. The chol zman shelo nishchad hazevach, as long as the animal has not been slaughtered, af al pi she'frishan l'shem zevach, even though this was separated for the sake of the animal carbon, l'shem zevach zeh, for this particular animal carbon, yachol l'shanos on l'shem zevach acher, but still you can now change and do it for another animal. Aval achar shchita, but after the slaughtering, eino yachol l'shanos on l'shem zevach acher. At that point it's too late, you can't switch it to another animal. That is what the Rabbanan, again, that's what they do with this pasuk of zevach u'nesachim. And the Gemara continues and says, v'Rebbe nami, but actually Rebbe as well, mi boile l'chid zeiri, he actually also, he needs that pasuk of zevach u'nesachim for the teaching of zeiri that we just quoted. V'Rabbanan nami, and the Rabbanan also, as far as the pasuk of u'minchasam and eskehem mi boil hu, they need that pasuk l'minchasam and eskehem b'layla, u'minchasam and eskehem afil l'machar, for what we quoted above with regards to Rebbe, that it teaches us minchasam and eskehem could be at night, minchasam and eskehem even the next day, and so therefore this cannot be the reason of the various tanoim of the Rabbanan and Rebbe. Elo, rather, hainu taimayu the Rabbanan. This is the reason of the Rabbanan, because it's written in the pasuk ola umincha. It says in the pasuk ola umincha, and so that's what teaches us that the mincha should be right away after the carbon, after the animal carbon. And the Gemara says, according to that, v'Rebbe nami haksiv ola umincha. But Rebbe also, what does he do with the pasuk of ola mincha? Isn't it written ola umincha? Elo, rather, says the Gemara, bevoim im hazevach tekul yamalo pligi. When you have the minchas nesachim coming together with an animal carbon, there actually is no machlokas. The mincha v'yachar kach nesachim. Everybody agrees that in such a situation the mincha is brought and then comes the nesachim. Ta'ksiv olo mincha, because it's written in the pasuk olo mincha, as we said above. Ki pligi, and when is there machlokas? In other words, everybody agrees to olo mincha, but ki pligi, when is there machlokas bevoin b'fnei atzman, when they're being brought on their own independently? Rabbanon savri, the Rabbanon hold mi deboin im hazavach, from the fact that which comes along with an animal carbon, we say mincha v'yachar kach nesachim, that first the mincha is brought and then the nesachim. So b'fnei atzman nami, so when it's brought on its own also, mincha v'yachar kach nesachim, it's the mincha and then the nesachim. And what does Rebbe respond to that? V'Rebbe, and Rebbe responds, hasam hu da'aidi da'aschil ba'achila, over there where one began with the achila, gamar lo l'kula milsa da'achila, we finished the achila, the eating. Nesachim is not eating, technically nesachim is in the category of drinking. Aval b'fnei atzman, but if it's brought on its own, nesachim adifi, the nesachim are actually better, they come first. Hoel d'misamra shira alayu, since there is a song that is said over them. And Rashi explains, olo mincha, the pasuk says olo mincha, mashma achar ha'ola miyad yakrav mincha, that's understood to be saying after the ola, immediately bring the mincha. And Rashi continues, al hanesachim omrim shira halavim, over the nesachim, the Levim say shira b'Meseches erchin, b'parak ein ne'erachin, that's in Meseches erchin, in parak ein ne'erachin. And the Gemara continues at the two dots, the Mishnah said, hamatonos shal mizbeach achitzon, the applications of blood on the outer mizbeach, ein ma'akvo zu ezu, they are not required for one another. And the Gemara says, Tanu Rabbanan, the sages taught in a brayso, minayin l'chol hanitanen al mizbeach achitzon, from where do we know that with regards to all applications on the outer mizbeach, shenisonon b'matana achas, that if one application is done, shekiper, that is an atonement. Shenemar, it says in the pasuk, v'dam zivachecha yishafech al mizbach Hashem elokecha, it says that the blood of your karbonos are going to be poured on the mizbeach. And Rashi explains, yishafech shvicha achas, when it says v'dam zivachecha yishafech, when it says that you're going to pour it, yishafech is mashma, one pouring, and that's how we know that one application is sufficient. And the Gemara continues with the Mishnah, Haparim evo'ilim eva'akvasim, the bulls and the rams and the lambs. This is by Karban Musafin, let's say the Musaf of Rosh Chodesh or the Musaf of Yontiv. There are various number of bulls and rams and lambs that are required for these Karban Musaf. So Einon Ma'akvin says that they don't hold back one another, meaning, for example, let's say the proper amount of bulls, they don't have the proper amount of bulls, so still they bring whatever number they have. That's what the Mishnah is saying, and the mitzvah will be fulfilled in that manner. And the Mishnah continues, Rabbi Shimon Rabbi Shimon says, Im hayu lahem parim merubim. Let's say they have a lot of bulls. They have the right number of bulls. V'lo hayu lahem nesachim, but they don't have enough libations, meaning they have money where they can get enough bulls, but they won't have the accompanying wine. So it's better to yavi parechad, better to bring one bull unesachim with its proper nesachim, v'lo yakrivu kulam below nesachim, and not bring all of the animals, all of the bulls, without the nesachim. Better to bring less animals in each with the proper nesachim, rather than bringing the appropriate number of animals, but not having the nesachim. And the Gemara says, Hani param ukavasim dehecha. We're talking about the bulls and the lambs of which karban musaf are we talking about? Ilema dechag, if you're going to say we're talking about of chag, of sukkis, kimishpatam ksibahu. There it says kamishpat, it says kimishpatam, it has to be. It's ma'akev, it's required, that number of animals. That can't be what we're talking about. So Ella, rather, the Rosh Chodesh, vatzeres to chumash hapikudim, rather, we're talking about the musaf of Rosh Chodesh and the musaf of Shavuos that's mentioned in chumash hapikudim and Sefer Bamidbar. And Rashi explains kimishpatam, mashma ikuva, the word kimishpatam sounds like it's required. Kol ha-karbonos ha'amurim b'chumash hapikudim, that means all of the karbonos that are said in chumash pekudim, again in Sefer Bamidbar. And we will continue with this discussion in the next video on Daf Memhei Amud Aleph.